All the materials provided in this interview are for informational, educational, or entertainment purposes only, and are not intended to be or serve as a substitute for professional, medical, or mental health advice, examination, diagnosis, or treatment. Welcome to Healing Doorways, a place to explore different subjects to expand our human consciousness. I am your host, Alicia Marcano. And today I have the privilege to interview an amazing medicine woman, Mona Maria Theresa Santalucia, and also known as Tessa. I have been knowing Tessa for about 10 years now, and I've been following her spiritual journey since she became a tarot reader until what she has become now, a shamanic healer. She's been learning this technique firsthand from the Q'ero people of Peru and other lineages. Tessa also has several other studies. Just to mention few, she has studied Shamanic Energy Medicine, soul regression therapy, Reiki, vegetarian and vegan nutritionist, and the list goes on and on. Today, Tessa will explain to us what is shamanic healing all about, where does it come from, and how it can help us heal. Tessa will also recommend few practices that we can integrate every day in our lives to start reconnecting with spirit, of the higher self, of the universe. After I did my interview with Tessa, I decided that I needed to do a session with her. At that time, I was having trouble communicating with one of my children. We put the time on, and she suggested to do it with the platform Zoom, which it was perfect. I connect very fast, and I could hear everything very well. I felt safe and held the whole time. It was incredible. Tessa found and released some past life issues between my daughter and I felt free, I felt love, hopeful, and very relaxed the whole time. From the very next day after this session, my relationship with my daughter has been amazingly better. Even her approach towards me is a lot more loving and relaxed. I could feel the shift right away, and I still feel it today, even when months has passed. I cannot recommend it enough. I hope this interview helped you clarify any doubts or any myths around shamanism and shamanic healing. And hopefully it resonates with you and you give yourself a chance to receive deep healing. Enjoy the interview. Tessa, welcome to Healing Doorways. I'm so excited. Yay.
Thank you. So good to see you. I'm so honored to be on here. Thank you.
The honor is mine. And we could talk about so many things, but today the subject is shamanic healing. So Tessa, what is shamanic healing and where does it come from?
So let's start with the word shaman, which is from the Tungus tribe in Siberia, and it's the name for their medicine men and women, essentially the healers. So shamanism is a word that was derived out of that. And I think in my understanding, shamanism was actually coined by anthropologists. So like an umbrella term for all the different sacred, ancient, indigenous healing practices across the world. So it's a very generic term because shamanism is lineage based. So in my case, it's the Peruvian Inca shamanism. So my path is called Nustapaco, which is like Inca princess or Inca medicine woman. That's what my teachers are teaching me. But of course, there's shamans and I don't call myself a shaman, I call myself a shamanic healer. But you know, in the West, to understand what we're doing, we have to use a word that people can search. Because if I say I'm a Nustapaco or on the Nustapaco path, no one's gonna find me.
Yes,
so it's essentially the old ancient healing practices that go back, 40,000 plus years, working with the earth, working with the elements, all the different levels of spirit, connecting with the earth, essentially the kind of original spirituality.
Yeah. Wow, that must be so amazing to be
studying that Peruvian lineage. We don't really know much about it, so that is great that you got that opportunity. And how do you decide to study that and become a shamanic healer? Because that's not really something that someone from Europe will be like, yes, I want to do that.
No, and it's a calling, you know, it's something that sort of chooses you. So for me, I came from just science. I had no interest in spirituality at all when I was younger. I had a very normal, if you will, childhood. I didn't have a lot of spiritual experiences or anything like that. And then I had a big spiritual awakening about 11 years ago, not through trauma or anything. I just started feeling energy, and spirit kind of put me on that path, one thing at a time. And I started working with tarot. I became a tarot reader and past life regressionist and all of that. And many years in, I came across shamanism. It really came to me. I wasn't looking for it. So I'll make a long story short. It found me, and it was like light bulbs went off, and I was fully called to that path. I started learning everything I could, and I just knew this is what I have to do. And I realized then how much healing I needed, because yes, I was working as a past life regressionist and tarot reader and everything, but I hadn't gone through my own deep healing. So I went to see my local shaman. He's from Egypt, but he's also initiated and trained in Peru and through the Four Winds like me, and through the Peruvian shamans, the Kiro people. So I started going to him for a few years, and I ended up eventually training at the Four Winds with, through Alberto Violdo. And now I'm learning, I'm doing everything I can just to learn from indigenous people, because it's so important to, first of all, to honor and respect it, because that's where it's coming from, but also to preserve the lineages and not dilute the teaching. So I'm very passionate about, it's a calling, it's a path, it's your whole life. It's not something you do on the side, and you have to go back to the indigenous people and learn from them, because it's their medicine, especially as a white woman. So yeah, it's incredible, and it's sort of a forever unfolding path, and it's a lot of it is learning from teachers and through the work, but a lot of it is just my own work with spirit too, because it's quite intense. It will challenge every aspect of your life.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it's a way of life.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what is the main reasons people look for shamanic healing?
Yeah, so it can be so many different things, and I always say it's like peeling layers of an onion, because at the start you might come in because you're in a typical sort of Western situation where you're overworked, just stressed, too much caffeine, too much sugar, completely out of balance. But once you begin to strip away those things, you start to heal what's actually below that. And it can be things from, this life or past life. So it's everything from cords that need to be cut with, energetic cords with people that are toxic, to parts of yourself that have been lost and needs to be brought back, to attached energies that you've picked up along the way, to trauma, to, it encompasses everything. That's why it's so powerful, I think. But the main reason people come is because they're usually feeling really spiritually unwell, under a lot of pressure, not able to make changes, stressed, fearful, in pain, sad. Some people are very aware that they have something attached to them. It can be absolutely anything, but a lot of the time it's a sense of the whole lifetime of pressure of everything that's happened, and you get to the point where you're like, I can't keep going like this. Or you've already done some healing and you're now ready for deeper healing, because shamanic healing is very deep. So sometimes someone has done other modalities and then they've come to the conclusion that I need to go deeper. But yeah, it can be anything. And a lot of the time it's that you need someone to come in and help a little bit so that you can then do your deep work, so that you can progress. I mean, we want to get to the stage where you've healed a lot of that luggage, so that you can actually turn your focus to developing yourself and transcending yourself and fulfilling your purpose in the world. So at the start, a lot of the time it's about the healing of, the past. And as I said, it can be many layers to that, but then it becomes more about your own development. And that's when it gets really fun, because there's so much to develop with our soul and stuff that we have no idea about when we're just focusing on what's broken. So yeah, it can be absolutely anything, really.
So you think you also heal a part of yourself by helping someone to heal?
I do, you mean?
Yeah, if you have a client and you heal an issue that he has, you can heal it in yourself too at the same time? Or?
I think it's the other way around. To be a healer, you first have to heal, because otherwise you will try to do that. So you will attract people that have the same issue and you'll project it onto them. That's why you can't be, a part-time healer. You have to really commit your whole life to it so that you can heal. It doesn't mean you have to be perfect. There's plenty of things I haven't healed, but you have to get to a stage where you're at least aware of all your, shadow aspects and everything. And then you'll find that I find a lot of people that come to me will have problems that I've already healed in me. So spirit will send them when I'm ready. And the longer I do this work, the more fascinating it gets, because I can see it might be something I worked on for a year and I'm sort of done with it. And then people start coming with that problem. So it's quite interesting. But yeah, it's very important not to project. So, but you always, it's a beautiful experience. Definitely in the session, it's healing for me in the sense that of the energies we're working with and the experiences. And it's so beautiful and touches my heart so much. So it's a very healing experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And is there any case that you remember the most that was a session with a client that was really profound for you? I know all of them will be profound, but is any of them that stands out the most that you remember?
Yeah, it's like you said, every session is really beautiful, but what comes to mind in a few different ones in recent time is someone who had not really experienced what it is to be loved and accepted. And this was a case of where it was much more to it, but I don't want to go into too much detail as to protect the person. But in the session, at the time when I felt that I'm just really starting out and holding space, this person had a very profound experience with spirit, of really feeling the love of spirit and what it is to be fully loved. And it was just the most beautiful thing to witness. And I was really just a witness. I could feel it, but it was totally the client's experience with spirit because of being in that safe space and spirit coming through. Then it can be things such as, a relative coming through that happened recently. We don't go out and do mediumship as such as shamanic healers, but it can happen. A lot of the time it would be when someone needs to be crossed over that's maybe walking in with a client. But on this occasion, at the end of the session, a relative came through. And it was so unexpected because I was at the stage of the session where everything's done. We're just bringing light. We're just in that really blissful state at the end, making sure everything's in balance. And I started doing this, I had this very visceral experience of a particular, and I won't go into what it was as to protect the client, but I did a specific gesture, and it was very visceral. Like I could feel it. I felt like I was doing this specific gesture to the client. And then I heard, a relative, and she started crying, and she's like, wow, this relative of mine always used to do that. So it can be things like that. But it's also what happens in, when I journey and everything. It can be what I'm experiencing in, internally or in my world or in, the world of spirit as I'm doing the work, where, for example, the other day, I was journeying for this client, and halfway down I realized there was a spirit that needed to be crossed, and it's sort of witnessing kind of, I guess you say, the portal opening and spirit helping this spirit come through. And there's so many complex layers to it, but it's amazing, very rewarding work.
Wow, Tessa. Well, you must have so many stories to tell people. Oh my goodness. If you can see
at the same
that
time,
word.
It's very normal. I always say it's just like I'm just sitting here and then spirit comes through and does stuff. You're just the vessel, it's not about me. But it is incredible that the more you trust and the longer you do it, how much is really going on that we don't understand.
Yeah, no. And the more I do interviews, I realize oh my goodness, we're not even scratching the surface yet. It's so much to go on. I have an interview a few weeks ago with a lady that does QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique. And she was talking about parallel life happening at the same time. That she was talking about the new earth, and they all oh my goodness, it's We have no idea what's going on. We're so asleep.
Yeah. QHHT is amazing. My shaman actually that I go to, he originally did QHHT before he went down this path. And my past life regressionist teachers in soul regression therapy, they were also training QHHT with Dolores Cannon. So it's incredible what you can discover through hypnosis. And wow. Yeah, this is why I always say when someone says, you know, what do you believe in? I just try to be open and just always, you know, connect with the light, but not be too definite in what I'm saying, because as soon as you do that, you put a cap on it, right? And there's so much more. So
yes, it's so much more. I was going to ask you if do you have any message for people that are watching us, maybe that they want to connect with their spirit, trying to listen to it? I'm trying to do it at the moment. Like I'm reading some books and you know, I'm trying to listen to my spirit. What is it saying? Is there any technique that we could do to start with?
Yeah, I'm going to be boring and say that the first thing we have to work on, which is often, I think, omitted in, especially in New Age and kind of modern spirituality, as much as I love it, it's often just focused on, you know, the astral traveling and the big things, but we have to do our work here. So good, clean diet, getting out in nature, breath work, and showing up every day and setting time aside for it. So, you know, you don't have to be born gifted, but you have to commit and make time for it, and it grows over time. So I think that's what we really need, especially in the West, is that diligence and, you know, continuously showing up and making sacrifices and prioritizing our spiritual path, and then listening in. And a lot of it is just about making time. So I love breath work, and it can be as simple as, you know, like the 4-4-4 breath. You breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, you breathe out for 4, you hold for 4. But it's, you know, really, really beginning to bring your body with you. It's not about escaping the body. So that's where I would start, and stillness. And, you know, because everything's so busy, we're constantly bombarded with messages and internet and the news, and, you know, we have to have a really solid base, especially if we want to go really far, because we can only go as high as we go low, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And also for people to, the other thing I see a lot is this, that fear stops people, where you won't even try because you might fail, you know, but then we've already failed. So that's my number one passion, to help people break free from that fear of trying to work out their whole path. You can't, you know. And another thing is, a lot of people I find are scared of perhaps taking a course, because they think if that's not the end of it, then I've chosen the wrong course. I never did that. I just did whatever I was guided to. And by the time I found my path, you know, with the shamanic healing, all the things I'd done before facilitated that. If I'd found shamanic healing day one, I would not have been ready. I wouldn't have had my healing. I would not know how to center myself. So whatever you do, you know, you just got to stay open to the next step, the next step, the next step, and keep focused.
And keep focused, yeah. No, that's great. And can you tell us quickly, how does a session with you looks like? Like if I come, I'm depressed or anxious, how long would it last, just to have an idea? And how does it look like from the moment the client arrives to the moment the client goes home?
Yeah, so I spend a lot of time just setting up the space, and that's a big part of the healing, to make sure it's safe, it's protected, you know, all of that. And I do that whether someone sees me in person or online. So it works equally effective whether it's via Zoom or online, but either way I will set up the space and prepare myself. I usually allow an hour and a half. Sometimes it takes a bit longer, but generally an hour and a half. And what I would do is, the first half an hour, we will bring up what's coming up for you. And in general, I would say if you were to see one of my teachers in Peru, they would go straight in and do energy work. But in the West, we like to have our story told and heard, and we have to crack the shell a little bit. So I allow people to tell the story. And a lot of the time you'll start talking about something that then leads to something else. And as we work with the energy, it turns out there's something totally different you need help with. But we will work with the energy. I tend to do a little bit of tarot. We work with my medicine stones. I will rattle and tune in and see what's coming through, what needs to be done. And then we'll move on to deep energy work, where I would usually have the person lying down, and we go on really, really deep work and various techniques, extracting energy that's not meant to be there. And anything can happen, all the stuff we've talked about already. Mm-hmm. And then we'll come back at the end and sort of wrap it up, and bringing light. And so there's a lot of different things we do, but about an hour and a half. Okay. And then I will send you home with homework. And tell you to come back for at least 4 to 6 weeks, because that's the most important part, the integration work. It's not so much that one session, that's just there to fix what you can't, but then you have to integrate that and work with it. And it can be very difficult, very painful, very blissful. It can be anything, but the month after the healing is really where you do your work. I say it's like going to the dentist. The dentist will pull the tooth out, but he's not going to brush your teeth for the rest of the month.
Yeah, that's it. And how can people find you, Tessa? What's the best way to connect with you?
Thank you. So the website is shamanicsoulwork.com. I do most of my social media on Instagram at Shamanic Soul Work. But all the links are on the website, and you can book and schedule your own session there. Or if you have a question, you can submit the contact form. And Instagram's great if you want to stay up to date with the ceremonies I'm doing and all of that. And actually on the website under events, I've got 2 free ceremonies. One is the Rite of the Womb, and the other one is the Bands of Power. So they are running every 3 months, and they're always free. It's a shamanic rite and ceremony that I hold.
Oh, I would like to join you in there. And you do Zoom sessions as well. You're doing Zoom at the moment, are you?
Yeah. So actually, most of my clients see me via Zoom. Sometimes even people who live in Melbourne, because it's as effective. It's really lovely to see people in person too. But at the moment, because of COVID, yes, everything is via Zoom. And as soon as we open up, you'll have the choice. So I'm in Cranbourne East. Okay. But a lot of my clients are overseas. So seems great.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. Well, Tessa, we ran out of time again, but thank you so much. It's been fantastic, and I would love to have you again to go a little bit deeper on the shamanic healing technique. And
thank you so much for having me.
No, that's been great. And if you are watching, I will leave all Tessa's links on the description of this video. And I hope to see you in a couple of weeks for another interview. So thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye. If you like this video, there's 3 things you can do for us. You can give us a like, you can share it with someone that might find this information helpful, and you can also hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. Thanks for your time.